do that. And to introduce them, we asked Roland Bunch, who's worked with the founder of the group that they work with. So Roland?
Well, every time I mention something that occurred back in the 1970s, somebody says, "My gosh, that's before I was born." I'm afraid I'm going to have to do it again. Back in the 70s, I was in Kenya and got to know and was working for about a week with a young fellow by the name of Joshua Mkusia. He's one of the unheralded, widely, I think, just people, nobody knows about him. But one of the people that, in spite of that, never having been recognized, has done a tremendous lot for thousands and thousands and thousands of his African villager friends. It's because of his intelligence. He's a villager with about a high school education, and yet because of his intelligence and amazing creativity and his tremendous commitment to the people that live around him, a whole movement has started around the technology called sand dams. I saw them in the 1970s. Some of those dams in the 1970s with virtually no maintenance are still providing all year round potable water for entire villages in the Machakos and Kitui areas of Kenya. He's one of the great unheralded heroes of African development, by my way of thinking. He was not able to come to the conference, unfortunately, but two people here, Jacob and Alvera Stern, are going to tell you about the movement that he started. And I want to mention one other thing while I'm up here, and that is that even though he wasn't able to come to the conference, he is available for consultancies in other countries in Africa, from Zambia. I believe there are people here from Zambia to Sudan. So if you want to get hold of him, Jacob and help you make sure that you get in contact with him, and he can come and show people how to make sand dams. Thank you.
Okay, I want to start by saying that I think sand dams are really kind of a misnomer. We really should say we're creating aquifers in seasonal rivers. That describes what we do much better than calling them sand dams. Anyway, they're called sand dams, so that's how I feel. Okay, just few more words about our charismatic leader, Joshua Mkusia. Number one, he came up with the idea of the sand dam. Now, as you'll see in the DVD, he attributes the very small conservation structures that the colonial people used beside the highway. And he said, I thought if I made them bigger, they would hold water. Well, obviously they have. And the other big thing about Joshua Mkusia is he has these many sayings. And the one saying I want to leave you with this morning is, every spoonful of soil that goes down the river is a sin against God. Now, to summarize the whole DVD, at the end of the DVD, Joshua Mkusia says, and when I die, on my tomb, write, dams, 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 trees, 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 and don't send flowers.
Kenya, land of beach resorts for sun lovers and game parks for adventure seekers. All in all, the perfect holiday destination. But that's not the Kenya I've come to see. Away from the safari parks and tourist traps, in rural Kenya, basic needs are a daily struggle. The Kenya I've come to see is the rural southeastern part of Kenya, where the charity Excellent Development works with community self-help groups to improve their lives. I'm looking forward to meeting people and understanding the impact of Excellent Development's work.
And even sometimes we used to go to fetch water during night hours. Yes. Sometimes people used to sleep in rivers, waiting for water, queuing for water. I'm telling you the truth.
This one, the plants are there. The other side is like a football field because there's not a.
There are some of the trees that we plant or to be planted in the shamba, and those trees can help us to maintain the moisture in the soil.
Water, soil and trees are the three things that need to be conserved in order to make a difference. Now, one way of conserving and collecting water is sand dams, fascinating structures with no visible water. The mastermind behind these dams is the co-founder of Excellent Development, Joshua Kusia. His inspiration was pretty simple, really, having to walk an hour and a half every morning before school and every night after school just to collect water.
That was the hardest thing I ever experienced in my childhood, because most of the time, because we were using gourds, you know what a gourd is. Either I was careless enough, it broke on my way when I had filled it, the water spilled out, and I came home without water and I was clean. Something I didn't like a lot. But other than that, there is a line here where the rock went over. You can see my head. There is a line. I've only in my head because of the rock carrying the water. Yeah, it made me feel bad. Over the years, I still kept on thinking what I could do for my mother and my father to have no that kind of trouble. So I kept on promising them if I grow up, I would find them water. I kept on thinking how I could dig a house. I've tried many and they have failed. So later I realized during the colonial time, the extension officers of the British government were putting stops to slow the sewer and hold water rather than run speedy. It went down slowly, and those places remained green. And then out of that, I thought if I could make them bigger, probably they could hold water. After succeeding in making these dams, I thought we were getting somewhere, and that made me happy because I can go and see some families getting water close to their homes.
Those families are still getting water here 20 years on. This dam has never failed. It's been puzzling me. When I think of a dam, I think of water. But where is all this water? Thankfully, Joshua is here to answer that question for me. Joshua, I know this is a sand dam, but where else is the water?
We are standing on water. And this sand, where we are now, we are standing on water. I say it is 60% sand and 40% water.
And I discovered the next day, it really is amazing just how much water that sand can store. We just walked for about 5 minutes over all of this sand that's been collected behind this dam. Now it's estimated that 10 million litres of water is captured beneath this sand. That means that little ones like Milika here have plenty of water nearby and it's clean. That makes you happy, doesn't it? The rains fall twice a year for just 2 weeks. The dams capture some of this water in seasonal riverbeds, but the rest ends up in the Indian Ocean. Even though the water is under the sand, it's easily accessible, either by using an outlet on the downstream side of the dam, but usually by digging down into the sand itself. Filling a 20-litre jerry can is all well and good. Carrying it, though, is an entirely different matter. Before the sand dams.
Before Excellent, we were just 20 kilometers from here to Hadi River.
20
kilometers from here to Hadi River. Once you go to take water there, you have to stay for the whole month, the whole day or 2 days before you get water, because you find jerrycans are queued because you need for fetching water. Now we can also link water from the Van Dam.
Now this is a perfect example of just how effective sand dams are. Look at this land, 3 years ago completely barren, now bananas, maize, dolichos and napier grass, all because the water is right beneath my feet. The great thing about sand dams is that they raise the water table, which makes the banks of the dam the perfect place to grow crops and seedlings. Vegetable nurseries are grown next to dams. Logical really, due to the proximity of the water. It's also a good location for starting tree nurseries, but more about that later. Now, just to prove that excellent developments aren't all about sand dams, here's a water collection solution that suits the local topography. It's called a rock water catchment, and what happens is when it rains, the water flows down this mass of rock. It's caught by the concrete wall that wraps around it. The water is channeled into outlets either side. The pipes carry the water directly to a water tank. Hey presto, water on tap. Nifty? It's clear to me that collecting water from dams is mainly the job of women and children in Kenya. But at least when they're at school, the kids get a break from all that walking. So as well as sand dams, excellent developments also build these massive water tanks right in the grounds of local schools. I do believe this is the first tank I've seen on my journey so far. Sand dams and the like have obviously had a huge impact on the people excellent development work with, not to mention the surrounding communities. But on their own, they can only take things so far. The next phase of development is terracing the land to prevent loss of water and soil during the rains. As part of the deal for a community to get a dam, they need to dig the terraces. It's a big job too. They're usually about a metre deep, and it would take one person a whole day to dig a length of just 2 metres. But if 3 communities come together and work together like these have, a terrace like this can be dug in under a day. And the general consensus seems to be they work very well.
Last season, we learned a lot because some few people who had terraces in their campus, in the area, we saw them happen. And that's why we're putting a lot of effort in every member shamba to keep terraces so that we can harvest. And we are sure if we get the same rains that we get in most of the seasons, we shall harvest.
The thing that strikes me more than anything else in what I've seen in my visit here is the way the communities work together. Today, 3 communities joined together to build in one day this massive terrace on somebody else's farm. They give up 2 days a week for no pay, and they collect rocks and stones and build sand dams. They do it all together for one main purpose: the conservation and the capturing of something that's so precious to them, more precious than gold, water. And what do we do with it? We pour it down the plug hole, we flush it down the toilet. We don't even think about it. And this is their main focus in life, one thing: water. The third step in excellence development involves trees, a highly sought-after resource for many reasons. Firewood provides 90% of the energy used in rural Africa, so trees for fuel are a top priority. They're also used by farmers to conserve soil and water, fertilise crops, provide fodder for animals, to build their homes, as well as for fruit and even medicines. And some trees are more special than others. So this is the moringa tree. It's called the miracle tree with good reason. It feeds both animals and people, and weight for weight, it has more vitamin C than an orange, more potassium than bananas, and more protein than milk. In fact, trees have the potential to change not just the Campbell world, but the whole world. Hey, don't just take my word for it.